Welcome to the Orange Report. I'm Kira Davis. Here with all the news and views you can use from around California and Orange County. You are joining us on our end of week wrap-up episode. As you know, we do a live show Monday through Wednesday. We broadcast live to X and to YouTube and Facebook. And then at the end of the week on Friday, we try to put out a compilation show, a little wrap-up show for those of you who like a more formal type of setting. But I do live broadcasting 3 days a week. If you're the type of person who just likes the idea of, turning on the computer while you're at work or doing chores around the house, that might be the thing for you. We broadcast at 11 a.m. Pacific, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. We talked about a lot of interesting things this week, mostly California related. I think that is just California news is America news. Is actually why I started this show. California news is America news, but never more so than this past week. We had the GOP convention last weekend, and the polls are changing with the Swalwell news. And it's just it's a race. It's a race here, and the whole country is watching us. So what happens here is really important. I want to get to some of the topics we talked about this week. But before we started the show, I was asking my son if he had heard about these 11 scientists that have gone missing or are dead. And this isn't something I plan to talk about on the show, but guys, have you heard about it? 11 scientists that are part of a top secret nuclear program, an aerospace program, are either dead or missing. President Trump was asked about it today, Friday, and at that time, we'll see when this show goes to air what happens, but at that time he said that he didn't believe, at that time he said he hoped it was random, but we might have answers within the next week and a half or so. I am a person who has gone down the rabbit hole. I am a person who has a tinfoil hat on, and it gets pointier and pointier every week. And even if you don't believe in aliens or UFOs or any of that, I think all of us have to admit that there's something really fishy going on here. I actually think there is more to this story. I actually think there is more to this universe. That the Bible tells us that, right? We do not battle against flesh and bone, but against the spiritual forces of evil. We battle against the other side. And so there's definitely, the Bible says it's really clear, there's definitely more to the universe than what you and I see in front of us physically or on a camera. And I just wanted to take a moment to say this, because I'm not going to give you this is not that show. I'm not going to give you all of my theories about what it is, but I do think it's something that most Americans will be concerned about and will be concerning if and when we know the truth about it. And I wanted to take this moment to remind everybody that no matter what is going on, weird woo-woo stuff or just in the regular political arena that we'll be talking about today, there's a reason why people like you and I don't have to be frightened of any of it. And that is because of God. That is because of Jesus Christ. So whatever weird stuff is coming, I wanted to take like a few minutes on my platform to tell everybody that you don't have to be scared about what's coming. You don't have to be worried. You should be vigilant. You should be alert. I'm not saying it's all going to be great stuff. But when you know the King, you don't have to worry about any enemies, known or unknown. And if you haven't met him, I would encourage you to turn to Jesus and choose the God of the universe, because you're probably going to need someone really powerful on your side when whatever is going on comes out. We'll see. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe they all gave Barack Obama a bad gift last Christmas, and that's just the Obamas and Clintons taking the people out that they don't like, as always. But there's definitely more to this story. If you've seen it floating around, pay attention to it. And if you haven't, well, you've heard it now. You don't need to be scared. We have the answers, right? People of faith have the answers. It's all in the Word. I don't know why. I just felt moved to give that to you, because I think a lot of people are either just dismissing it outright as nonsense because it's really too hard and weird to think about. And then other people are feeling scared. They feel like, what else is going on that I don't know about? Is this some creepy stuff? Is this some otherworldly stuff, or is this some government intrigue? Whatever it is, just know that we have a God who has already won the battle and who embraces us and blesses us and has given us this land to call our own. And so that we can depend on. We can depend on those promises. Okay, let's move on. Sorry to get weird, but it's my show. Okay, I want to talk about what I saw a little bit at the GOP convention last weekend in San Diego. A great job by the California GOP. I had a great time. It was really interesting. Talked about it on last week's show a little bit, but I wanted to go over a little bit. I spent a little bit of time on Monday's show talking about the endorsement process. A lot of people had questions about this because neither Chad Bianco nor Steve Hilton came out of that process with a California GOP endorsement. And a lot of people said, well, that's very cowardly, or, that sucks. Why can't the GOP do anything right? And I realize a lot of people don't understand how the endorsement process works in the California Republican Party. And to be fair, I haven't always understood it either. But I got a real education while I was there over the weekend. And it's not as cut and dry as you think. So I took a few minutes of the show on Monday to explain it. Check it out. Let me know what you think. And so I want to share some of this with you because I was going back and forth with some friends this morning and I realized, people don't understand how this nomination process works. And they might feel like, why can't the party just pick one? Well, I don't know how it works in other states. But here in California, we have what is called the jungle primary. This is a top two primary. We don't have party primaries. The two parties don't get to run to weed down, to pare down their field and then push a strong candidate forward. The jungle primaries are a backdoor attempt at communism. And it works, and they're trying to push it in Idaho, Ohio, Kentucky. You guys should keep an eye out for it. It'll give you a permanent Democrat supermajority if you do that. So don't do it. They try to make it sound good. They try to make it sound like, well, this will make it nonpartisan. Ask yourself who's pushing it before you get excited about it. Okay, so we have this jungle primary. It means that in June there will be an election, and it is a state election. We run for June in California. We don't run for November. You run for June. Because you have to get through June as a candidate, and only two people are going to get through. And regardless of party, it's going to be the two candidates who are polling or who secure the most votes in June. Okay? We have two Republican candidates and 10 Democrat candidates, and 7 of those 10 are contenders, depending on how you view that. Now, we know what just happened this weekend with Eric Swalwell. We're going to talk about that. But what the convention does is it gathers all the delegates. So every county has delegates, right? You sign up to be a delegate. You pay your membership fee. You pay your dues. I guess you pay your dues, and then you have a voting interest in the party. And then think about the national conventions that you see, the RNC, the DNC, and you have all of the delegations from California, delegation from New Mexico, and they have their signs and they go up and they tell you who they voted for the primaries, who they voted for to go through as a presidential candidate. You've seen it. It's basically like that, except on the state level. You have your county delegations. They all come in. Now, they all have not made choices. Some of the county party central committees have endorsed, others haven't, but there is no one uniform process for every Republican committee in every county. So the delegates, it goes to the delegates. There's 1,100 about delegates. I think that's what I got. 1,100 delegates that show up, and they go to a general session meeting. I am not a delegate. I went as a guest, so I got to sit and watch the process, but I did not vote. And they are presented with the statewide candidates. And then they have a remote. They have a voting device. It records the votes in real time. And so when each office comes up for nomination, all of the delegates have 2 minutes to type in their choice. And then the candidate who gets 60%, okay, 60%, the threshold is 60%. It's not the candidate who gets the most votes.
It's the candidate who gets 60% of the votes of the delegates that will move on to get the endorsement. They will secure the endorsement. So, for instance, we had a little competition with the treasurer, with the office of treasurer. Two candidates were running, a gentleman named David Serpa and a woman named Jennifer Hawkes. Jennifer Hawkes had the experience. David Serpa had the pizzazz. he was running all over, pizzazzing it up all over the convention. And he had a lot of supporters there. People weren't sure. Jennifer's a little more low key. She's a little more dry. Treasurer isn't the most exciting office. But she gave her speech and encouraged people to vote for her. And the delegates took the vote. And Jennifer was at 58%. Jennifer won 58% of the delegate vote. I think Serpa was, there were some no preferences, and then Serpa was down there in the 30s. Like, it wasn't a competition. But 58% is not 60%. And some people abstained from the vote because they couldn't really make the choice between the two. But our chairwoman, Corinne Rankin, and I think this is very good of her, said, we're not going to send candidates away with no endorsement if we have an opportunity to endorse people. So the threshold for a revote is 58%. You get 58, 59, then we'll take a revote. So she called for an immediate revote to see if they could get Jennifer or even David, but really Jennifer, over the 60% threshold so she could leave with a party endorsement. Took the vote again, an extra 2 minutes, got her the 60%. Some of those undecideds were like, okay, we're not going to do that either. Do you see what I mean? Now, she could have left there with the confidence of knowing that most of the delegates support her campaign, and she could, take that with her. But why would she do that when she could get 60%? Why would the party leave her hanging like that? So that was a good thing that they did. That was a good thing that Corinne did. That was a good thing that the party did. I know a lot of people have a lot of complaints for our party chair and our party apparatus. I do too. Like, I'm not, but credit where credit is due. Corinne said, we're not going to send someone away without an endorsement when we have the opportunity to do so. So there's a case of that happening.
All right. So what do you think? Does it make a little more sense to you now? Do you think it's stupid? Do you think we need to change it? I don't really know how other county parties do it or how other state parties do it. I don't know how I feel about a 60% threshold. I really wasn't quite sure why we have that threshold, why it's not 50 plus 1, but that is the way it is. And so the result is no endorsement for either Republican candidate. And the other thing that a lot of people have suggested, because Steve Hilton has been leading in the polls consistently, he's actually never dropped underneath anybody. But Chad Bianco, in some polling, seems to be hovering around second or third about now, with Steyer in second place. And a lot of people out there who are like me and we just want to win. We want the best path to victory. Have suggested, well, wouldn't it be great if Bianco dropped out and became lieutenant governor, ran for lieutenant governor? We could have Steve Bianco. And I just want people to know that it doesn't work that way. Lieutenant governor is a separate position that someone is running for. And actually, Gloria Romero received the endorsement from the GOP. And she's also running on the golden ticket. So that's not an option if you haven't filed for that office. Maybe you can be a write-in candidate, but I don't know. When is the last time a write-in candidate won? Does anybody know? Like, won anything? Was it Teddy Roosevelt or there was some big candidate in America that won? I don't know. Let me know. You guys let me know. Write to me or just drop it in the comments. Let me know. So I don't think we're going to get a Bianco lieutenant governor, but this race continues to tighten. It's definitely getting interesting, so hold on to your hats. You may have heard about the shocking report from Chris Ruffo over at City Journal, a publication of the Manhattan Institute. Chris uncovered an amazing, that's not the right word, shocking. I'm running out of words for the level of fraud in this state, but he uncovered a shocking program up in San Francisco, a homeless program. You shouldn't be surprising that there's a homeless program in San Francisco. A homeless program that has received $66 million from the state. In 1 year, $66 million. Chris found out that shelter is offering homeless illegal aliens sex change surgeries, and you're paying for it. I covered it this week on the Orange Report Live.
Medi-Cal has something like an almost $1 trillion funding liability. If you are, when I tell you that illegal immigration affects everything, it is not just about your paycheck. It is not just about your taxes, and it's not just about your bathrooms. When I tell you it affects everything. If you have ever had to use the California healthcare system for anything, you have had to go and wade through a sea of illegal immigrants log jamming your emergency services, log jamming surgery, log jamming healthcare. You can't get in to see your pediatrician. I used to be able to get in to see my gynecologist in a week. Now it's 2 months. That's illegal aliens doing that. They're creating a log jam. Now think of this guy is getting fake boobs and quote, he's going to get castrated and the government's going to pay for it. And you can't get, if you're on Medi-Cal, you can't get your open heart surgery. You can't get your cancer treatment. You're waiting in line for your MRIs. You can't go to the emergency room without waiting there 8, 9, 10 hours. And this guy who doesn't have a home or a green card or any good sense is pushed to the front of the line, and he's getting your dollars to have breast implants and be castrated because he has a sexual fetish. This is not just ridiculous. It's evil, and it's evil on purpose. This is not an accident, and this is not the unintended consequences of a good law. This is evil. This is our government on purpose trying to dispirit you as a taxpayer, trying to elevate something evil, gender transition, and call it good, and call it so good that it takes precedence above every other type of healthcare. Takes precedence above you having a baby, you getting your cancer treatment, you getting, your yearly exams, you getting emergency services. It takes precedence over everything. $66 million this shelter got to house this man. What are you paying rent? What's your mortgage? What's your future housing possibilities look like? Get mad. Get angry. It's not just disgusting. It's evil. This is an absolute plan to replace you. All right, I'm not going to read. Let's see. Alondra, a muscular man in a camouflage shirt and dyed hair tied behind his head, said he'd been in the U.S. after claiming asylum. According to the translator, the city government had offered to pay first and second month's rent on private apartments for him in Leica, but neither accepted the offer in Leica's case because he might not be able to pay for the apartment after the second month. Just stop it there, Scott. How many of you would gladly take the state paying your first and second month's rent to get a jump start on a decent apartment in a decent area? It's not just absurd. It's evil. It's evil on purpose. The purpose is to make you feel like what you do is pointless, to make you feel like what you do is worthless, to make you feel like your complaints don't matter. It's to make you give up, to just be a cog in the wheel, go to work, hope the government leaves you alone, and give everybody else your money. And you'll be too dispirited and too broken and too hurt and too tired to cause a fuss or to go out there to change things. And you know what? It's been working. It's been working. But we have a unique opportunity here. People are angry. I need you to get angrier, though. I need you to start sharing these stories, telling these stories. As far as I'm concerned, every conservative outlet should have a California bureau right now. And I don't know why they don't. You should have a bureau here in California. This is where it all begins and ends, right here. If we fix California, we'll fix the rest of America. We're exporting all of this. If we fix California, we will fix this country. I don't know why some of these major conservative outlets don't have, but I'm available. I work for myself right now. So I'm available for hire. There are great people out there. Amy Reichart could maybe poach some other folks from who are writing locally. There are people here to do the work. There's no excuse for a conservative outlet not to have a bureau here right now.
Go back and watch that full episode. I read the article on air in totality. It was absolutely insane. And one of the things I want to ask people is, what's your response here? What's your response? I think we've become so numb in California to the level of fraud and absurdity that comes through our government channels, that comes through our NGO system. We've been so depleted of our motivation, our energy, our hope by this super majority that we see stories like this and we say, oh gosh, it's terrible, that's awful, that is California, oh, it's just terrible here. And we roll our eyes. And I just want to tell everybody, I know you're dispirited and I know there's been a lot of cheating, but if you just roll your eyes at this, you're part of the problem. So we've been lulled into this idea that there's nothing we can do and corruption is just part of the system. But here in California, corruption is the system. It has become the system. And I want you to think about that $66 million and think about what that would do in your own neighborhood. Just think about what your city or town here in California needs. I don't care what it is. I mean, I can think of a dozen things that we've covered here on the Orange Report, just here in Orange County, that people need. Say beach safety, beach patrols, classroom supplies, education, school supplies, all of that kind of stuff. Medical care. Think about how hard it is to get medical care, how expensive health insurance is, even the Obamacare exchange, which is absolutely ridiculous. It's very expensive. How much health care in 1 year could $66 million buy for your community? In San Francisco alone, let's say, what could your citizens get for $66 million in health care? I dare say they'd get a Cadillac healthcare plan. But instead, your taxpayer money is going to fund a man who's not supposed to be here, who's not from here, who has a sexual fetish, going to give him fake boobs and castrate him in the name of that sexual fetish. And you're paying for that. Not only are you paying for that, your kids are paying for that. Your grandkids are paying for that. Think about how many of you, I hear from you every day, how many of you are watching your children leave this state. They're packing up their own families, they're packing up your grandchildren, and they're leaving the state. Not because they want to, not because they don't want to be with you, but because they can't afford to raise a family here the way you did. Their future is being spent on fake boobs for perverted, transgender, homeless, illegal aliens. Everybody needs to get mad. That should make you furious. That man is stealing your child's future and putting it into his chest. It should make you furious. And the politicians that we have put in charge, all of us, are letting it happen. You shouldn't just look at that and roll your eyes and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe how crazy that is. No, it's not crazy. It's evil. And they've been doing it right in front of our faces. And you know what? If we don't stop it, we condone it. It's consent. So I'm letting everybody know right now, I do not consent to this. I do not consent to it. It is evil. And our state can never be great if we allow this type of evil to continue. We have to erase this kind of evil and other evils as well if we want our state to be great. God cannot bless us if we don't stand against this type of evil. It is vile. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. You know that it is. Chris Rufro is here in California. He came from the other side of the country to join, the California reporting revolution, ignited by, in part, Nick Shirley. We're going to talk about him in a minute. Came all the way across the country to uncover these stories, and they are never ending in California because there hasn't been a resistance, but the resistance is here. Those of us who have been resisting inside the state, we finally have backup. But now the rest of you who have sort of been sitting back and been placated and complacent, it's time for you to stand up. It's time for you to get mad. It's time for you to say, this is absolutely absurd. If you want to know where you start, post that story on your social media. Post it to your Facebook. I don't care about your mother-in-law who's going to uninvite you to Thanksgiving dinner or your teacher union pals. Who cares? Who cares? At this point, if you're not willing to stand up and say what's right and show people what's right, you're part of the problem. Grow a backbone, everyone. The truth deserves a defense. Okay, well, I know that everybody out there has probably heard about this Nick Shirley Act that is currently weaving its way through the Assembly. And if you haven't, then you definitely want to watch the next segment. We're talking about AB 2624. This is a new bill that has come up to the California Assembly, introduced by Mia Bonta. And the name should sound familiar to you. Mia Bonta, who is the wife of our AG, Rob Bonta, who our Orange County's own Michael Gates is running against, and he's going to win. We're going to make sure that he wins. We need him to win. It seems like an incredible conflict of interest, but Mia Bonta is the assemblywoman who introduced this bill. And the bill is ostensibly aimed at investigative journalists. It's aimed at tamping down their ability to find information about fraudulent hospices, any services that include immigration services, which is all of them. The state wants the ability to keep addresses and names of people involved in those programs and the addresses of the programs a secret. This is California. Again, if we do not stand up and talk about how ridiculous this is, we're consenting. We're part of the problem. All right, watch this next segment and then tell me what you tell me if you're as outraged as I am, and you should be. Play it.
California Assemblyman Carl DeMaio is slamming state Democrats for voting to advance a controversial new law, Assembly Bill 2624 by Assemblywoman Mia Bonta, to silence citizen journalists and shield taxpayer-funded organizations from public scrutiny. AB 2624 is perhaps the most egregious violation of the First Amendment I've seen in Sacramento, and this is Katie Grimes reporting, and I have had firsthand experience with the California legislature violating the First Amendment after having my Capitol press credentials revoked because Democrats didn't like what I was reporting. My attorneys and I filed an administrative appeal and won the press credentials back easily. And then she goes on to review the First Amendment. Again, this is not just absurd. This is evil. We cannot continue in a state like this. We cannot continue in California like this without violence erupting. Because at what point do you have a banana republic? At what point do you don't have a Democratic government? You don't have a Republican government. And I don't mean big R Republican. I mean a government in a republic. At some point, there has to be, what do? You can't even use the law to fix, there has to be armed revolution at some point. I feel like we're getting to this point, unless we can wrestle back the government, because what other option do you have? This is absurdly illegal, and such a bill is absurdly illegal. Now, if you're not from California, you're not going to recognize the name I read, Mia Bonta. Mia Bonta is an assemblywoman. Her husband is Rob Bonta. Rob Bonta is the California Attorney General. Rob Bonta is the guy who's been suing parents up and down the state for the audacity to demand that we know what our kids are learning in school, for the audacity to demand that we know when our kids are trying to change their gender or seek gender affirming care in school and it's being kept secret from us. He's suing us. We're winning every one because, of course, that's unconstitutional. We're winning all those cases, but Rob Bonta is suing the school district and parents privately. The AG, the Attorney General, is suing his own citizens. This is how crazy it is here. And his wife sits in the California Assembly. And she just introduced a law. The wife of the California Attorney General just introduced a law to make it illegal for investigative reporters to report on fraud. That's basically what it is. What they want to do is to shield services that provide for illegal immigrants, to shield them from having to offer any identifying details, names, addresses. How do you even report without that kind of stuff? I mean, not the reporters, but even the authorities. How do you even collect reporting without that? These are public services provided for with public tax dollars, and they want to introduce a bill to make it illegal for the public to know where these services are located and who the services are going to. The California Attorney General, who is supposed to be the one investigating fraud, is the one supporting this. Nick Shirley comes in and blows the lid on almost $1 trillion. We're gonna pull up on $1 trillion of fraud here in California. We will. Some of these people have $200 to $500 million a person of fraud on their records. And we haven't seen all of it. We're going to pull up on $1 trillion. So when Nick Shirley, he releases, he unleashes the hounds. Suddenly everyone's interested. CBS comes and is doing reports here in California. And the governor, how does the governor respond? The governor and his crack team, his crack comms team over there, they respond by suggesting that Nick Shirley is a pedophile. They respond with memes about Nick Shirley. Not the fraud, not a comment, not a whisper about the massive fraud. Now, when they got called out for that, suddenly his comms team is going, oh, Gavin Newsom has been rooting out fraud forever. Really? Then how is there so much here to find? And then the response to a kid, a young American kid with a camera, self-funded, self-motivated, really living the American dream, using the American dream. A young kid who is serving the taxpayers by uncovering injustice in the use of their dollars. Their response isn't, this is an elected government in America. This is an elected government in America. The response is not, oh my gosh, we really dropped the ball. We're going to investigate this too. Even if they don't really mean it, just to make it look like we're going to investigate this too. Thank you, Nick Shirley. Come, let's give you a key to the city. Let's give you an award. Thank you for, no, their response is to make it harder for investigative reporters to uncover fraud. Gee whiz, why? It's evil. Evil runs Sacramento right now, and we got to make a serious play for it.
I seriously do not know how it is that Mia Bonta can be the wife of the Attorney General and introduce a bill to thwart investigative journalism when it is the Attorney General's job to defend the civil rights of the citizens of his state. That is his job, as outlined. It is absurd. I posited on one of the shows this week. At what point do we have violent revolution? At what point is the law completely pointless and useless? Why would we continue to follow the law if the law is not real? If it is only set up to take advantage of and steal from the citizens? And we're getting to that point. I'm not saying we're here yet, and please don't misunderstand me. Don't hear what I'm not saying. I'm not calling for armed revolution. I'm just wondering, when does a society get to that point? If you cannot count on the law to protect your civil rights, and in fact, if the law then becomes a tool, a weapon against you, the citizen, and not only does that, but then prioritizes non-citizens and non-taxpayers above you and your needs, at what point does violent revolution come? Because if you live in a banana republic, what are your options? If you can't elect your way out of absurdity and disaster, the way we are in California, what do we do? What do we do? I really think this is a question people have to ask. This is why I'm pushing so hard in this gubernatorial race. I really want to win because I do think this is the last chance for a lot of us. I think a lot of you out there are going to leave if we don't win something in November. I think a lot of you are going to leave. I know a lot of your kids are going to leave, and they're taking your grandkids and your future with them. And then a lot of you are going to leave. You're going to follow them out. If you have any sense, you will. Don't let your children leave you. Don't leave your children. We need to keep our families together. I believe that this is another tact of the left. Just to continue to destroy life and destroy life. Think of what they're paying for illegals. They're paying for all of their family services. Everything. They're paying for daycare. They're paying for gynecological care and pediatric care. They're paying for schooling. They're paying for scholarships. They're paying for clothing. These people have huge families. What do they do to us? When we have families, they punish us. They charge us more in taxes. They erect ridiculous and criminal programs in schools to obscure information about our children, to hide information about our children, to separate us from our children. They make healthcare so expensive. They make schooling so expensive. They make housing so expensive for the taxpayer that then we shrink our families to be able to afford the American dream and the lifestyles that we dream about growing up. But that doesn't happen to the illegal aliens. They are encouraged to have families. They're encouraged to grow their families on your dime while your kids move out of state because they can't afford to live in the land that they pay for the illegal immigrants to live in. That's absurd. It's absurd. And I think it's on purpose. It's evil on purpose. And we need to stop joking about it and pretending that there's nothing that can be done about it and rolling our eyes. If you don't want to do anything about it, then get the hell out of California. Like, just go. Why would you sit here and sit under all of this and just complain and go, oh, this is just so corrupt. The Democrats are always going to cheat to win. Fine, leave. Leave then. If that's going to be your attitude, why would you stay? It's horrible here unless you have a stake in this land somehow. And I wasn't raised here. My husband and I are not from here. We raised our children here though. And almost my entire career has been here in this state. And I ran for school board in this state. I have a stake in this state. My kids have a stake in this state, and I'm going to fight for it, and I am fighting for it. And I'm asking that you do the same right where you are. Figure out something to do and go do it. What I'm tired of is hearing Republicans especially complain about how the battle can't be won. It's uphill. There's so much cheating. Yeah, we know all that. President Trump knew all that in 2024. Who knew better than him that there's just so much cheating and the system is deeply corrupt? Thank God he didn't go, there's no way I can beat it. You know what? It's just this bad. Thank God he had a backbone and he had determination and he doesn't like injustice and I don't either and I don't think you do either. So if you are like me and you don't want to lose this state, you want to save this state for your children and their children, you don't want to see your kids leave in November if we lose, then I need you to stand up and say something. I need you to stand up and get angry. And that doesn't mean you have to run for office or, carry a pitchfork out in the streets like the lefty loonies. You don't have to do that. Figure out what you can do right where you are. If you go buy my book, Drawing Lines, it'll have all kinds of stuff in there for you. All kinds of ideas of what you can do right where you are. But one of the easiest things you can do is to start sharing these stories on social media. Share this show. Share this segment. Share the clips you see from this show or any other interesting clips or stories, because you know what happens? The ignorant people in your friends and family group, they see stories they've never seen before because they don't have access to that because they're not curious enough to go find it. They turn on CNN or they turn on MS Snow or whatever we call it these days. They turn on their favorite left-wing podcaster and they just read headlines. They don't do research. So a lot of times you are offering them the only moment of alternative news. But I know a lot of you don't do that because you don't want to make people mad. But your friends and family post all that stuff, don't they? They post it all. You do it too. It takes some kind of bravery, and it's not that brave to post to social media. It's not that brave, but it takes some kind of bravery. We need to stop consenting to this, people. Okay, again, I've been yelling this whole show. I'm so sorry. I don't mean to yell at my lovely Orange Report viewers. I'm passionate about this state. I'm passionate about our county. I am passionate about life here in California and the blessings of liberty that God has given us. And I do not want to give those things up easily. And I don't want you to either. And yeah, I did start out the show with weird stuff. And then we're ending on the typical old California corruption stuff. But the overarching solution is the same. The gospel, God, and what he asks us to do, what he asks us to engage in as representatives of his kingdom. You engaging in the political process is a part of that, is a part of representing God's kingdom. So go out there and engage. Thanks for tuning in this week. I'm Kira Davis. Remember, sunlight is the best disinfectant. So bring on the sunshine.